Moving day means you're in for a big transition. CubeSmart makes self-storage as easy as possible. Online or in person, we put the focus on you. Click now to learn more.
You can't tell me this music doesn't get you fired up to talk football. What's up, guys? Zack here. Are you hearing double through that? No, I don't think you are. Anyway, what's up, guys? Zack. I'm here to talk fantasy football. I'm here to talk AFC East in particular. As you see on the screen, I'm talking Bills tonight. I'm talking Dolphins, Patriots, Jets. Let me know your questions. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know whatever you got going on tonight. I want to hear about it. And I know it is early June, but I'm working my way through these divisions, and we're getting through it. So last week was NFC East. Tonight, obviously, like I said, is AFC East. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through my projections for each of these teams. If you missed last week's show, you might not be familiar with the format here, so let me just run through it really quick. If I can pull up that sheet. There it is. So here, I'll talk a little bit of an overview of changes that were made in the offseason, and then I have done projections on all of the fantasy relevant players for each team. So I'll go through each team, give my take generally on how I feel about them for fantasy football for this season. And I'll take your questions. I'm not really ready to talk rankings yet, where I'll take them necessarily. I have general thoughts now. I'm waiting till I completely make my way through my projections. I'm sure I will have rankings in about a month. I doubt you're drafting right now. So this is kind of just a big picture talk. Again, getting ready for the season, setting the stage for what I'm expecting from these teams, so that we can figure out where do they shake out when it comes time to draft them for fantasy football potentially. So I hope everybody's having a good night. Let me go back to my main preview screen here. So I'm going to go through those projections. I do have some film ready to go. I looked at Zach Moss a little bit closer for the Bills. I looked at Nelson Agholor somewhat. I have a few things I just want to show people regarding Nelson Agholor, and maybe I'm a hater. He won my Eagles a Super Bowl. I can't hate too much. He was part of that team, so there are maybe some things that I don't like about Nelson Agholor's game. He somehow was better than anybody they had on the team last year. Anyway, regardless, I'll show you a little bit of Nelson Agholor, and I also took a good look at Denzel Mims. I think I actually checked out every target of his from last season, so I'm not going to show you every target, but I'll show you some standout plays for me that I thought could really set the stage in terms of giving you a sense of what Denzel Mims did last year and what he might be able to do in this really brand new offense. New coach, new quarterback, a new wide receiver in Corey Davis, new running back, new guard. I mean, there's Elijah Moore, rookie. So Jets are a very interesting team, and I'll get to them last, but I'm going to start with the Bills here. I'm going to go alphabetically here. So we're going to start with Buffalo first. Really, the big change with Buffalo, and again, if you guys have any questions, let me know in chat, and I'll try to answer them the best I can in terms of my opinion, how I feel about these guys. Again, I have not. I'm working my way through it, so I'll give you what I have. I'll give you what I can for this. So, Bills, I think the big. I laughed at my. If you're laughing at Mitch Trubisky being a key addition, I'm laughing a little bit too, to be honest with you. So, the top of the key losses and key additions really is the main thing we want to look at for the Bills. Emmanuel Sanders in, John Brown out. When John Brown was healthy, he was actually pretty solid. So. Really, and then even on their off draft, Gregory Rousseau, Boogie Basham, defensive ends were the top 2 picks for the Bills. Their highest offensive pick was tackle Spencer Brown. So they also added Jacob Hollister and Matt Breida. I think those are pretty minor moves. So I honestly put Mitch Trubisky in just because I almost forgot that Mitch Trubisky is now the backup in Buffalo, worse than Mitch is a backup. But anyway, let's get into the Buffalo projections. I mean, it's the Josh Allen show, right? And I think I got a question. I was on my Twitch stream last night. My guy Arnav asked me, can Josh Allen do it again? Yeah, I don't see why not. One thing I want to point out with each of these guys, which is something that beyond projections I tried to build in more and more and really look at when it comes to time for drafting, is what's their upside and how safe are they? If we got an upside of 10 and a safety of 10, that guy's good to go. Roll him out. He's probably going in the first round because 10, it's a score of 10 to 1 basically here. 10 means he's got the chance to be the best in his position in fantasy football. 1 mean I don't even know that I've ever given anybody an upside of 1. I feel like everybody in the NFL's got a little bit more upside than 1, right? So safety of 10 basically means I have almost no doubts other than the random injury that can happen to anybody. So with Josh Allen, upside of 10, because I do think he has that upside of being the number 1. I think I actually saw in some places that there's kind of a debate between him and Patrick Mahomes to go number 1 out of quarterbacks for fantasy drafts in 2021. Again, I'm not ready to go there yet. I feel like I'm going to have Mahomes over Josh Allen, but after that, do you feel comfortable at Aaron Rodgers with that whole situation? Obviously, Deshaun Watson kind of out of the picture now. Lamar Jackson fell off last year. Is Kyler Murray going to take another leap forward? Is Justin Herbert? So, Dak Prescott, when he played last year, was great, but I don't think anybody's taken him above Josh Allen. So Josh Allen is going to be a top 2 quarterback for me. I'm fairly certain of that. Again, I think he has the upside. I think he has the safety because of the rushing. You look at 425 yards and 7 rushing touchdowns that I have him in for the 2021 season. So again, these are all projections. So this is about what I am expecting from him in the next season. Let me pull up. Do I have that up? If I can pull up their stats from last year. I just had this up a little bit ago. So, and again, it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky. We got what up, NBA? What's up, man? You came over to the dark side on YouTube. What's up, man? Just getting into it, talking Bills. So the tricky thing with projections this season is we got 17 games on the schedule. So where last year Josh Allen had 4,500 yards passing, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, ran for 421 and 8. So if you look, I basically have him very close to that, but over the course of 17 games instead of 16. So am I expecting him to outperform what he did last year? No, I'm not. Am I expecting him to drop off compared to what he did last year? No, I am not. I'm being, I guess you could say, fairly conservative with Josh Allen, but I like what I saw from him last year. He took a huge leap forward, and really, I talked about this last night too on my Twitch stream. Between Josh Allen and Steph Diggs, they kind of just reinforce the whole analyzing talent and not assuming we know what a scheme is going to look like an offense is going to look like. No offensive coordinator change last year. Going into that season, I think a lot of people thought, yeah, Josh Allen has potential. He's shown upside, but are they really going to throw enough for him to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback or even higher? Steph Diggs comes over. Yeah, he's a very good wide receiver. Some might say a great wide receiver, but again, are they going to throw enough for him to be a top 10 even fantasy wide receiver, which I think there was really a debate going into last season when it came to that. Fast forward a year, Steph Diggs led the league in targets and receptions, I believe. So he had 166 targets, 127 catches, man. 1,535 yards, 8 touchdowns last year. He was incredible. The two of them, you'll see, I talked about my upside and safety scores. Steph Diggs, upside 10, safety 10. With how much I expect him to throw the ball a lot again this year, as much as I like some of the options below him, whenever somebody has the potential and already has led the league in targets, I don't think there's any doubt that he can do it again. And even if he's not the number 1, number 2 fantasy wide receiver, you never know what's going to happen. But I am very, very confident that he's going to be a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. If you wanted to tell me you're taking him number 1 because the Aaron Rodgers situation with Adams, Tyreek Hill, I think that's debatable. Beyond that, I think I saw some people, we've talked about this, and I don't think anybody now is still on A.J. Brown over Diggs, but I saw a little bit of that, and I thought that was a little silly then, and I still think it is now, even more so with Julio there. But anyway, I think that Diggs has number 1 wide receiver overall potential. I think Josh Allen has number 1 quarterback overall potential. So that's where I see that going. NBA's got a question here. Emmanuel Sanders is a great addition. I recall his fantasy points per game was great last season. Can he repeat that average per game? So really, that's the big question. Not just Sanders, but there is room for somebody else below Diggs with what I have Josh Allen projected at with 4,600 passing yards, about 35 touchdowns. Cole Beasley was very, very usable in fantasy last year. When Josh Allen was healthy, or not Josh Allen, Josh Allen was very good too. But when John Brown was healthy, he was very usable in fantasy. So between Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis, I feel very confident that one of them is going to break out. Which one will it be? That is sort of the debate. If Emmanuel Sanders didn't sign there, I felt like I would have been all in on the Gabriel Davis train. I feel like I still kind of want to be all in on the Gabriel Davis. He averaged 17 yards per catch last season and 7 touchdowns on only 35 catches and 62 targets. So, the wide receiver core is great. I didn't even bother, you'll see, in projecting Dawson Knox because I don't know if there's really going to be enough for him to go around. Maybe if there's some injuries, I guess he could catch some touchdowns. We'll see, but I don't think Dawson Knox is really going to be an option for most leagues at tight end. But yeah, Cole Beasley last year, 967 yards and 4 touchdowns. If I could find Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders had, and let me see how many games he played. He had 61 catches for 726 yards and 5 touchdowns. I know he missed time, and I don't have it in front of me how much he missed. But, yeah, between him and Gabriel Davis, I feel like those are the two I'm looking at. I project, as you see, I project Emmanuel Sanders for 13 games and still have him almost more than Gabriel Davis there. I think the key for Davis will be if Sanders misses time. I think that's, again, like I said before, they signed Sanders. I was all in on having Davis as a breakout wide receiver. I could still see it happening. You'll see I actually have him as my higher upside guy out of Sanders and Beasley. But, again, Beasley could be the one, too. I feel like he's not the guy that everyone thinks of for exciting, fun wide receivers, but I don't see why he can't. Again, he had over 900 yards last year, 967 yards last year. In a 17-game season, why can't he be a 1,000-yard receiver? So, again, the 17 games now really changes things a little bit. But I also look at him as a very safe guy. I mean, I think he's going to get a ton of targets again, too. So he had 107 last year. With the underneath stuff that he catches, 82 catches last year on 107 targets. He doesn't need those Diggs level of targets to be a good fantasy wide receiver. Are you going to win your league because of Cole Beasley? Probably not. I have him at the same amount of upside really as Emmanuel Sanders and Gabriel Davis, but obviously a much safer play. So I know exactly, Jared. You said it. Beasley is basic. No swag. The upside score should be the swag score. But yeah, he's super safe. I had him in a team last year, played him a decent amount. He did pretty well. But again, he's not the guy that's going to win your league. If Sanders plays 16 games, if Gabriel Davis breaks out, those are the guys that you're looking at late in your drafts that are gonna win your leagues. So. NBA saying 650 is a bit high, 550 max maybe. So again, we'll see. It's obviously going to depend on how much he plays and how much Davis might break out there. So we'll see. The running backs. So I think the answer is neither, and I think the answer was neither last year. The only one, again, I'll bring up some Zack Moss film in a second. I wanted to look more at him. Towards the end of the season, he started to get more carries, more work than Singletary. So I wanted to get a sense of what he did late in the season with that work. The answer was he was fine. He still didn't really get many targets. He actually got 4 in the playoff game, which was pretty interesting. And then he went out with an injury. He's a fine wide running back. I still think Singletary, when he gets some space, I still like what I see from him, but what the problem was last year, and you assume it's probably going to be the problem this year, and if you see the rushing touchdowns for them, I have 3 for Singletary, I have 6 for Zack Moss, and I am probably being generous with my catches. 43 for Singletary, 30 for Moss. Josh Allen's the goal line back, so I have Josh Allen for 7 rushing touchdowns to lead the team. That ruins the fantasy. When you're not getting a lot of catches, you're not getting a lot of rushing touchdowns, it's hard to play you in fantasy. Yeah, I know you love your Super Moss card on Fantasy the Show, Jared, but so let me bring up some Zack Moss really quick. I'll show a few plays here. NBA Beasley is Fabio without or with football helmet. Let that hair wave. Yeah. He's got nice hair. I'll give you that. He's got nice hair. So let me pull up the Zack Moss. So again, towards the end of the season, that's when he kind of consistently was getting double digit numbers in carries. So I'll start with I went from week 14 to the wild card game because again that's really when he started to take over for Devin Singletary, and we want somebody who's going to break out. And Devin Singletary, it just hasn't happened. If it hasn't happened. I want to give you a little bit of a sense of what I saw, from Singletary, from Moss here. So I'll start. Let's see. 132, and of course this doesn't look like it wants to load. That's pretty cool. And they're just disappearing, and that's not a thing that happens usually, so it's fun being live. Alright. So let's go to week 14 again. I mean, I don't know if I can even... Can I play that? Probably shouldn't. I got dinged on one of my YouTube videos for doing broadcast views for James Robinson, so I'm trying to be a little bit careful here. I hate this, basically, is what I want to start with. If this is the right run, which it should be. Like, I hate how, like, he's getting contact, and he turns his, like, he doesn't run into it, he turns his shoulder, and just, like, kind of tries to, like, take him, rather than, like, running through him, he ends up backwards at this point. Like, I hate that. For somebody who, you know, he's not the quickest guy, he does, they did start to use him more in some of those, some goal line situations. Like, I hate that run. Like, it's a 0-yard run. To me, you're losing all momentum by trying to hit somebody with the side of your shoulder like that. So I was absolutely not a fan of that one. Let's see, 419. We'll go down here. Is it 417? Must have been 417. Yeah, I think this one's gonna be a run to the outside, which I like a lot more. And what I like, yeah, making that guy miss there and then cutting it back inside, getting some of those extra yards, pretty good. Again, nothing really blew me away with the Zack Moss film, but I thought this was a pretty good play here. Let's see, we'll go to 1332, I believe, in the... oh, that's a different game. Okay, we're going to ignore that game. Week 16... 1456. So this, again, this was a big thing. I want to see, just because he hasn't gotten the touchdown opportunities in the past doesn't mean he won't. So I kind of wanted to get a sense of when he does get these opportunities, what can he do around the goal line. So this was encouraging to see. You know, he gets kind of wrapped up at the one, still is able to get another angle here. But again, what Zack Moss is going to need to do. I don't know that he's going to become a big pass catcher. He's going to need to score touchdowns. And will that happen? Will they start to give him more of that work around the goal line? We will see. So, Singletary or Moss, who has more juke? Probably Singletary, I guess. Again, Moss, I don't know that Moss does anything great, is really what it came down to from the more I watched this. So, this was another interesting one here where, again, this kind of showed me what kind of player they want. Is it 401, I believe? I hope this is the right one. So, yeah, so you'll see Singletary backfield, Moss fullback position. So, again, this is I think it's a third and one, third and short. Just because it's not near the goal line, to me, doesn't, you know, to me, those short yardage runs, like, those are the ones that are obviously going to be closer to the goal line. Those are if you want Zack Moss, if you're going to be drafting Zack Moss, you want him getting those types of runs, because, again, the touchdowns are going to be big for fantasy points. So he ends up getting the ball here out of the backfield as the fullback, pushes that guy forward just enough to get like 3 yards. To me, it's more just he's getting those opportunities. I don't know that run like blows you away, but I'd like to see those kind of opportunities from him. And then I mentioned the pass catching too, so I'll show a little bit of this really quick, because he got 4 catches in the wild card game, and then he went out of that game and was hurt. So you'll see out of the backfield in a second. Spoiler alert: he's going to catch it. And again, he doesn't do anything great with that. I think it's a 10-yard play. But compared to what he did last year, I think he had 15 catches last year. Like, we need, if we're going to be drafting Zack Moss, we need him catching the ball. So I'll show you one more, and then we can move on from the film. But just to see that they actually like they tried to do this. You know, they actually tried to get in the ball, and he makes a couple guys miss there, which was pretty good. So. So all that's to say, like, nothing really there. I don't think it really blew you away with Zack Moss. So, and yeah, I just saw your comment. Is there a video of Moss catching balls? I just showed you a couple. So, all that's to say, you know, who do I like more? I think I'm probably going to lean Moss, but I'm pretty unsure. I think Singletary has shown more of an ability to catch passes. So I think in PPR leagues he could end up topping Moss. But if Moss it gets into that, you know, like 6-7 rushing touchdown territory, he's going to be usable. And again, if he starts catching passes, I have him for 30. I think he had less than 15 last year. So I projected him at 30. You know, that's still pretty low. And I think from what I saw towards the end of the season, they started actually targeting him. I think he has a chance to catch the ball more. So that's what I wanted to show you there. So. That's about it for Buffalo. I think that kind of covers it again. I didn't project Dawson Knox at this point. I think between the 4 wide receivers and the running backs and Josh Allen kind of doing it with the legs, I just don't know if there's enough really for Dawson Knox. If you want to throw a target target him at the very end of drafts, go for it. I probably won't be doing that. So, Dolphins is I'll go back to my AFC East sheet because the big addition there is Will Fuller, the big loss, along with Jalen Waddle in the draft. So 2 big wide receiver additions, which is obviously very relevant for fantasy. And then the loss of Ryan Fitzpatrick. He goes to Washington. Tua is now the full-time starter. So what's this going to mean for the Dolphins? So it's tough. I did not like what I saw most of the year from Tua. I'll start with that. I looked at when he sort of took over towards the end of the season. Stats-wise, his last 5 games, he threw the ball almost 40 times a game. He had one game, I think it was against the Bills, where he threw the ball over 50 times. They were losing. I don't know how much that's going to happen. I think that Dolphins defense is pretty solid. But 65% completions, but only 1,200 yards in 193 attempts, 126 completions, 240 yards per game despite the 40 attempts. To me, that's a problem for Will Fuller. That's a problem for Devontae Parker. It's a problem if you drafted Tua. He didn't really show, and it's not to say that he can't, but he really didn't show much of a willingness or effectiveness going down the field. You saw that 65% completions, or I mentioned that. That's great. It's because he threw the ball short a lot. So that's going to be maybe efficient, but what I looked at in terms of what I now project for Tua, I have him as a 16-game projection. In 16, obviously, it gets a little fuzzy now with us adding a game to the schedule, but you see that the stats that I have him at. Tua can't get worse. No, I don't think he will get worse. 220 yards rushing for Tua. No, I would say he's a running back that can run, but he's not a running quarterback. So I think that's appropriate way to put it. But so I don't have Tua really getting worse, and I do have him taking a little bit of a step forward. But even with taking a step forward and sort of I have him improving in all of his per game stats. 100. Isaiah Ford 276. Smythe 208. Mac Hollins 176. There were a lot of guys sprinkled in that if you take some of them out, that opens things up for the Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle addition. But do I think someone can break out? I think Will Fuller, he showed the last couple years when he's actually healthy. He's a really good deep threat, but I just don't think that really fits with to his game. Can Jalen Waddle sort of come on right away and sort of be that Justin Jefferson type of player? I guess so. But right now, I just don't see any of them with with what I saw from Tua last year, and with doing these projections and looking at the stats and just looking at like, okay, how much is there to go around? Like Devontae Parker's cool and all, but like Will Fuller's there, Jalen Waddle's there, Mike Gesicki's there. Myles Gaskin actually catches a lot of balls out of the backfield, and he's actually the one that I'm probably most excited about for fantasy on this team. So I just think there's just, we're going to need an injury. We're going to need something to break. I have a 9 upside for Will Fuller. I have 8 for Parker and Waddle. Parker has shown the ability in the past. I think Jalen Waddle, top 10 pick this past year. He has the ability. We've seen it from Will Fuller. Even we'll see. Maybe Tua can throw down the field more this year. We'll see. So, I think part of Myles Gaskin getting a lot of those catches is Tua, a lot of those checkdowns. So, I think Myles Gaskin can have a pretty solid year. So. Point is, I don't think I'm going to have any of these guys. I haven't done my rankings yet. I don't know that I'll have any of them in my top 25, but I'll probably have them all in like close to my top 26 to 40-ish range. So I don't really love any of these guys. If you look basically compared to like Buffalo, I have some of those other secondary options kind of close to what I have for the Miami guys, and I have Cole Beasley in for much more yards and maybe not as many touchdowns. We'll see. But when you have Josh Allen throwing for near 4,700 yards, and you have maybe about 4,000 yards for Tua, I don't know. I mean, do you guys like see one of these wide receivers breaking out if you had to pick one? I don't have those numbers in front of me with Gaskin with Tua. But I do recall from watching the games last year that it was a lot of checkdowns again from Tua. So I wouldn't be surprised if Myles Gaskin did better with Tua. But that's a good point to check those how those numbers went. But Gaskin, the thing with him, when he was healthy, he was the guy. I mean, the last, I think it was 8 games of the season. Even once he took the job by like week 3, like he had the job actually week 1. They weren't really running the ball too much. He didn't he was probably the guy getting the most carries on the team, but didn't necessarily have the job. From like week 3 on, he missed I think like 5 or 6 games due to injury. The last 8 games, he averaged about 15.5 carries per game, and when he was out, Ahmed dominated the carries. So. I wouldn't be surprised if they just give it to one guy and let him go, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's Gaskin. I have him in for, again, this is a 14-game pace. I have him in for 44 catches. If he actually stays healthy, can he catch over 50 balls? And that's awesome for PPR leagues. 861 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. So again, that's 14-game pace. If he stays healthy, he could be a 1,000-yard rusher. He could be a 50 and catch 50 balls. So. I do like Myles Gaskin. I think upside-wise, is he more than that? Is he going to be a top 10? Does he have that top 10 upside? I don't know. But if you're waiting at running back, and I do think the more I look at some of these running backs, I think running back is maybe not top-heavy, but fairly deep. I think Gaskin is a pretty solid guy to start. Let me pull up really quick. I had ESPN's rankings, and I'll bring those up really quick. I know they do PPR as default, and I want to get a sense of where they have Myles Gaskin, because again, I do think he's going to be more valuable in PPR than standard leagues. Myles Gaskin is currently 22nd in ESPN. He's a little bit below J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery. And he's just above Chase Edmonds, Mike Davis, Travis Etienne, Kareem Hunt, James Robinson. So, I think that's probably close to where I have him. I might have him above Josh Jacobs. David Montgomery is a tough one. It's a really tough one. He's basically played 4 good games his whole life. I rode him to a championship, but man, that's tough. And if what's his name from the Bears is back and healthy, the other running back, then I don't know that the catches will necessarily be there for him, but we shall see. So point is, that's about where Myles Gaskin is being ranked right now. Cohen, that's it. Thank you, Jack. Tariq Cohen. So, and I will get to the Bears in probably a couple weeks. But point is, I do like Myles Gaskin for this upcoming year. So I don't have Tua film to show you. I didn't really get a chance to really. I don't know that 5 or 6 plays is really going to show you what you need to see from Tua, and I don't want to just go through play after play after play after play. So, oh yeah, Damian Williams is there. Yeah, that's a name I brought up a couple weeks ago, and I was like, where is he still with the Chiefs? And I was like, wow, he's with the Bears. Like that could be really interesting because he was solid 2 years ago. So, so yeah, Mike Gesicki's going to be the interesting one again. If all of these wide receivers are good and Myles Gaskin's catching passes, the problem is I project all these wide receivers around this with the understanding that there is probably going to be one that's a complete bust. And I guess Jalen Waddle being the rookie has potential. I guess Fuller, with he's going to miss the first game at least with the suspension. He misses time usually for injuries too. So. There's some bust potential there, and that's where I think Mike Gesicki can still end up getting around his 600 yards and 5 touchdowns, which still is not going to be enough probably to be top 10. So he's kind of a high end tight end too probably. So yeah, when you do rosters every week like you do, yeah, I know, right? Whereas there are certain things that I'm not as familiar with. It's funny now how even in probably March or April, you're super on this now. So, so that's kind of it for the Dolphins. I don't know that they're all that exciting. I'll be interested to see what happens in terms of if Gaskin goes down, if it's Ahmed or if it's Malcolm Brown. We'll see. I don't think we need to worry about that just yet. But yeah, I think adding Will Fuller and drafting Jalen Waddle really muddies everything up. And if you want to just pick one guy and go with him, I think Will Fuller is going to go first. Jalen Waddle is going to be fun and popular because he is a rookie. So I understand, if he ends up going above Parker, I could see that happening. But we'll see. I do like Will Fuller. I drafted him last year. He was working out pretty well for me. But to his numbers compared to what he was, what Will Fuller was getting from, Houston quarterback. Not a good dude. Watson. So, compared to what Watson did last year, again, you got to, and it's more crowded, I think, too, with Parker, Waddle, and Gesicki. So, so we will, I think, move on to the Dolphins. I mean, from the Dolphins to the Patriots. And God, I don't like anyone on this team for fantasy, I don't think. I think the best bet might be if Mac Jones comes in and Mac Jones is good, maybe one of the running backs. Because much like Josh Allen, Cam Newton is kind of the goal line back. You'll see I have him in for 17 or 7 rushing touchdowns. I don't have anybody else for the running backs in for more than 4. So, and the running backs are really a work in progress because I didn't go with Sony Michel. I will probably not even bother with Sony Michel, but I'm hoping Sony Michel is not really. Kel, what's up, man? I'm hoping Sony Michel is not really on the team because I think Ramondre Stevenson has some potential, and I'm gonna really monitor what's going on with that. Even though you never know. They lost Rex Burkhead, so does this again just become a 3-headed monster that you can't predict? Very good chance it is. So it's hard to trust any of the running backs. I do think. You know that James White's going to get the catches, but I have him in for 40 rushing attempts in 16 games. I mean, it's hard to play, and the running backs really even care. It's a shame that both of the tight ends went here. because I think if just one went, I think there is a good chance that we would have ourselves a tight end one. It's another situation where it's really muddy. It's tough to figure out week to week where that might go. I do have Hunter Henry in as my favorite. I would be drafting Hunter Henry over Jonnu Smith. I just like him better as a player. He has missed a lot of time over the past couple of years with injuries, and that would be the problem. Jonnu Smith's been a little banged up too. But really, when it comes to Cam Newton, again, I don't know that I trust. He had a couple of games, especially towards earlier in the season, where he was throwing that deep ball pretty well. But Nelson Agholor's value last year came in those deep ball touchdowns. I project. I mean, I don't know. These are projections. I feel like it's rare these days that a first round quarterback doesn't get in there. That was just kind of the number that I ended up going with. I wanted to account for the fact that Cam could still start most of, if not all of the games. But we'll see what happens. I think this defense is going to be much better this year. Going through the changes for this team, when I was going through this, I didn't even factor in when it comes to additions for the Patriots. I know, like, when it came to free agency, that was the big story, was them spending all this money. But they get Dante Hightower back. They get Patrick Chung back. They get one of their offensive linemen back from opt-outs from last year from COVID. So from the COVID season. So they opted out. They're basically additions that I didn't even throw on here. In addition to Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Nelson Agholor, Kendrick Bourne, who I didn't even bother with projections. You still have N'Keal Harry, at least for now. So, they made a lot of moves on defense. We'll see how well any of those work out. And then, again, Mac Jones drafted, Christian Barmore, I mentioned. Ramondre Stevenson was really the most significant offensive guy that we're going to be looking at for fantasy that they drafted. So, I wanted to factor in, basically when I start to look at this, you have to consider that the Patriots took a quarterback first round, and there is a chance that Cam Newton does not play 16 or 17 games. So I had to account for that when it comes time to putting these projections against other players. The problem with Cam, NBA Rigged mentioned that Cam is definitely good for fantasy when he starts. He was early in the season. By the end of the season, I was barely, if not at all, ranking him in my top 20. He looked awful passing. I don't know if it was just injury, what it might be, but he's been so banged up the last few years. If he was banged up again this year, you wouldn't be surprised. That's also partially why I went with Mac Jones for 5 games in my projections here. So, and let's have some fun. Let's have some fun really quick. NBA, you talked about a few weeks ago about Nelson Agholor, about liking him. And I will say, looking at the tape, a lot, I look at his catch percentage around like 56% of his targets. And he's getting targeted on a lot of deep balls, so he's going to be those catch percentage numbers are going to be lower for anybody who's getting targeted on those lower percentage throws. But and I will also give him the benefit of the doubt that the more I looked at the Nelson Agholor deep balls, I will give him credit. There were a lot that he was open on, and there were a lot of incompletions that were really badly thrown by Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota. But I'm going to show you really quick what happens too often. And it's become a meme for a reason. I believe he is up here running deep. And I think we should probably see another angle of this. There was a flag that came out. I don't know why there wasn't. That didn't end up being a flag. Yeah. Hit him in the hands. So we'll go to week 13. Hopefully this can see this one. He just kind of falls down. Like, that wasn't even just completely drop. He also just falls down and plays it really, really poorly. Here's our next one. Now, like, that's not an easy catch, but a good wide receiver is going to come down with that. It wasn't that far off. I think he falls down a lot and just completely he can't track balls into his hands. It's a problem. He'll catch some when he gets wide open, but it's a problem. And I don't think he's going to have as many opportunities. He got targeted deep a lot with the Raiders. I don't think that's going to happen with the Patriots. So Nelson Agholor is my favorite of the Patriots wide receivers in fantasy. This is a funny one. Bobbles it a few times. By the time he actually falls down, his shoulder's out of bounds. Couple more. I think you get the hint. Everybody has drops. But this dude's hands are awful. And when he's not going to get as many opportunities, he actually has to catch a lot of these deep balls and convert on some of these balls in the end zone. And this actually, I didn't even watch all all of his film. I didn't even bother. This was not hard to find. NZ Dan, what's up? So Cal and I were watching that Julio drop the other day. Oh, I figured that was Kiwi. What's up, man? Table tennis. Look at you guys. And I don't know that the deep ball is definitely. I think he's fine. I don't know that Mac Jones is a bad deep ball, but I don't know that that's really his strength either. So what it comes down to here is I have Nelson Agholor as the best wide receiver on this team, and I have him at 633 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm probably avoiding just about everybody in this offense. I might take a stab on Hunter Henry a little bit later, see if he can stay healthy and really, earn that job. We'll see what happens with him and Jonnu Smith, but that's going to be really inconsistent too. Not a fan of anybody in the Patriots for fantasy, so probably not the best, but the most interesting team, I think, in fantasy is the Jets. Because if I go back here, we added Corey Davis to the Jets, Keelan Cole, who I didn't even project at this point, but he has always been just like the guy that's just annoyingly involved, even though you don't want him to be. He's another one of those guys. The draft was the biggest. So Zack, the first, I think it was their first 4 picks. Zach Wilson, quarterback. You get the guard, Elijah Vera Tucker, Elijah Moore, wide receiver, and then Michael Carter, the running back. So, what are Mac Jones' strengths beyond Cam? Beyond durability. I guess we'll see. Is he going to be more accurate? I guess. Could he probably have I don't know. We'll kind of see with Mac Jones. I was not a big fan of Mac Jones coming out. I felt like he's another one of those guys who maybe is more of a field general kind of quarterback. Understands offenses, understands the game a little bit more. Accurate quarterback, but I felt like he got bailed out a lot by having the wide receivers that he did there. So I felt like there was a lot of times where while I'm watching, he's hitting guys that are wide open. So I don't think he's going to have that really happening this upcoming year. So it's the point is what Jared just said in chat is there are a lot of options, because you also for now because there's a lot about apparently Jameson Crowder wanting more money and they can maybe get rid of him soon, and he wants out if he doesn't get paid, and it might apparently happen the more I'm looking into that. If that happens, I think there's a little bit more room for Elijah Tucker to step up. I think these projections are very much a work in progress, because if Jamison Crowder is not on this team, a lot of things change. Zach Wilson, I threw him in for 17 games because why not? I don't know that they're really going to go in any other direction. I don't see why they wouldn't just see what they have from Zach Wilson. So I have him at 4,100 yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Like seemingly everybody that comes out nowadays, he's got decent wheels. I got him in for 290 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. The problem will be every time I watch Zach Wilson in college, he had a clean pocket. He had like the cleanest pocket you could possibly ask for a long period of time. And the more I watched, I'll get to Denzel Mims' film in a second. The more I watched Denzel Mims, part of the problem there was Sam Darnold. And the big problem with Sam Darnold seemed to be he had no time. He had no time to throw. I actually have now adding Elijah Vera Tucker hopefully is going to improve that. They drafted Mekhi Becton, so that the left side of that offensive line hopefully is getting better. But according to Pro Football Focus, here I got a fun stat for you. Jets offensive line last year allowed pressures in 2.5 seconds or less. In 28% of their dropbacks, that was the worst rate at that period of time in the whole league. Point is, their pass blocking was horrendous last year. When you put a rookie into that situation, it's hard to like it, especially a rookie who is used to having a lot of time. So, yeah, I mean the touchdowns have certainly been there for. I watched it. I think he sucked, and then he was awesome, and I couldn't believe how awesome he was. And then the following year at the Super Bowl, he went back to just being awful, and all he could get in free agency was a 1-year, $1 million contract from the Raiders. The Raiders didn't pay him like they expected him to be a top guy. And he turned out to be their top wide receiver. Nelson Agholor is one of the hardest wide receivers to figure out in the league, because you could make a highlight reel of Nelson Agholor, the opposite of what I just showed you, and you'd be like, man, that guy's awesome. It's just very, very, very inconsistent. So, I don't know that Zach Wilson's somebody you're drafting in fantasy this year, especially in a one quarterback league. If he breaks out early in the season, pick him up, kind of like what happened with Justin Herbert. But there's just too many other quarterbacks out there. I like Zach Wilson over a period of time, over the long term, but not for this season. I don't think he's somebody you're going to be messing with. Again, we got Corey Davis, we got Denzel Mims. For now, we have Jamison Crowder, and we have Elijah Moore. I do have Corey Davis as the best. I really liked what I saw from him last season. There were times where it was like a 1A, 1B situation with him and A.J. Brown in Tennessee. I really liked what I saw from Corey Davis. I don't know that he can repeat what he did last year. I can bring up his stats really quick, but again, with a rookie quarterback, with that offensive line, I don't know that we're going to get that. So last year he had 65 catches for 984 yards and 5 touchdowns. So I have him a little bit worse than that. I might even be a little generous there, honestly. But I think Corey Davis is going to be fine. I think he is sort of a wide receiver 3. I'll be talking about rankings once I'm really done with a lot of these division previews. But at this point, I don't see myself having Corey Davis as anywhere in my top 20. Again, if I have Zach Wilson in for 19 touchdowns, do any of these guys look like somebody who could break out? Denzel Mims is popular breakout target from people. I know a lot of people liked him from last season. I talked about him a little bit, and I'll get into the film with him in a second. But he was mostly a guy that they said just go deep. He caught some of them. There were a lot that were off target. He didn't create a lot of separation from what I saw. So not somebody, the more I looked at it, that I absolutely love. But again, I have him at like almost 700 yards on like a 14 game pace. So in terms of per game points, you look at he's about halfway between my Jameson Crowder and my Corey Davis projections. So Corey Davis Jameson Crowder for PPR leagues, he's going to catch a lot of balls. Obviously, we know that about Jameson Crowder. If anything, he's going to catch a lot of balls. So he will complete more than Derek Carr last season. Zach Wilson, I think the other factor with them is their defense is probably going to be bad. So it might not be the most efficient. Again, 4,100 yards. Again, this is 17 games too. So things are a little off now that we're adding another game in there. So I do not have him in a 16-game pace as like a 4,000-yard guy. So whereas, I have him, we were just talking about Tua, I basically have him about throwing the same as Tua, and I think Tua is not going to have to throw the ball as much because I think that team will be better, that defense will be better. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, I'm gonna have Zach Wilson as somebody at this point. It's an early projection. I'll dig into this more. I think I completed this honestly about an hour and a half ago. So maybe 2 hours ago. So I'll dig into it more. I'll kind of these are just kind of like baselines to get me started, and then once I kind of throw them in together and throw everybody's points against each other, that's where I start to look at upside, where I look at safety. Whereas, I don't think either Tua or Zach Wilson is somebody you're really going to be targeting in fantasy, but I have them both with around the same upside, so I wouldn't be surprised either way if any of them is better in fantasy. I don't think it's if you're talking real life on the field performance, Tua will probably be better. He'll complete more passes probably. But Zach Wilson will give you more rushing, so that helps a lot too. So yeah, but neither of them, I don't think they're even really worth talking about in fantasy. Michael Carter is going to be the interesting one because to me, when I look at Tevin Coleman being below him, you have Michael P. Ryan. I think that's the P. Ryan that's with the Jets. Really not a whole lot that I love there. Ty Johnson. This is one, again, I'm just taking my shot with Michael Carter because I think he has the most upside out of any of those guys. It's June. If we start to hearing that actually Ty Johnson really is looking like he's got the job, that Michael P. Ryan's working in, Michael Carter's coming along slow, this will change. It's June. This is just initially. I wanted to make a point to talk about Michael Carter because I think he does have the highest upside. He was a pretty good a pretty good receiver in college. I liked what I saw from him from the tape as well. So at UNC. So I'm basically picking my shot and saying Michael Carter's the guy. I will not be drafting Tevin Coleman. Ty Johnson might be the other one that I look at. I know he's been really good in Fantasy the Show. I think more sooner rather than later it's going to be Michael Carter. So we'll see what happens there. Again, this is just me taking my shot right now. There's a very good chance I'm off on this one. Probably not going to be in my top 25. Any Jets running back. Again, bad offensive line. They really weren't able to run the ball all that effectively. I think Ty Johnson had his moments. He had 4.7 yards per carry last year, but Ty Johnson caught 16 balls for 99 yards as well. But again, because I think that Michael Carter can help you with receiving as well, I'm going to take my shot and say Michael Carter, somebody who they drafted. Was it third round? I think it was third round. So that he could be the guy. So. But again, bad offensive line. If the offense struggles, if they're down by a lot, could be tough to start Michael Carter on a consistent basis. So, Jets have been a lot better in Fantasy the Show. Yeah, you're right. So, and then Chris Herndon, actually, I remember I was upset at Jared. Not really upset at Jared because I wasn't. It was to a point where I was like, Chris Herndon was somebody I was going to probably be targeting at the end of drafts. I had a second tight end by that point when we were drafting in our league last year. Jared scooped up Chris Herndon very, very late, and I thought he got a really, really good value. Nobody else seemed to be in on him. Chris Herndon did absolutely nothing. With the number of wide receivers that are there, this is another, guys will separate themselves. I have upside of 8 for Chris Herndon, meaning I think he's got that maybe top 10 upside, maybe even higher than that. He had a couple games that were pretty good towards the end of last year. I think it was like 2 touchdowns and 100 yards combined in those games. But so you think Tevin might surprise? I'm going to see Tevin stay healthy is really what it comes down to. So we'll see if once things get started if Michael Carter can stay on the field. Let me see if I still have my college notes up. I can't find them, but I think he was a better pass blocker too, which is always the thing that prevents rookies from getting onto the field. If Michael Carter can do that right out the bat, then I think he'll be okay. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see on Tevin Coleman. It's just something I'm just not a big fan of. So, so I'm gonna bet on somebody else for the Jets, and maybe Tevin Coleman will prove me wrong. But really quick before we close out with the Jets, I do want to go over. I mentioned Denzel Mims, that I watched a lot of film on him, and I do want to go back through this. So, a lot of this was not really his fault. I think the offensive line sucked. I think Sam Darnold wasn't very good. But I think we want to check this out and just see if we get better offensive line play, if we get quarterback play, can Denzel Mims, did I see enough? What do we see from Denzel Mims that he might be able to break out? So, let's get into it. I'm going towards the end of the season because I think I wanted to kind of get a sense of, by the end, what was he picking up? What was he figuring out? So, keep in mind, week 9, which we're going to start with, Joe Flacco at quarterback. So again, it was not always. There were actually a couple of good throws from Joe Flacco, but it's a problem, I think, when Joe Flacco is your quarterback. It's hard to get a sense of how good you really are. So I think he's up here. Good catch over the middle, and I like sort of the run after the catch ability that he showed there. Kind of got tripped up, but not a bad play from him there. We'll go to 10:51, I think, in the second quarter. This is what I think it is. I think he's up here. This is what you saw. Oh no, okay. This is a good deep curl from him. Let me see if you can see him on this route. Not as much. So let me go. We'll pay attention more to the curl. So it's a good route, good timing throw by Flacco. We'll go to. This is an example of the quarterback play hurting him because this play he has a chance to do something, and Flacco just completely flat out misses him. I think he's coming across the field here. So yeah, that's about a 10, 12 yard play there. That if you get some better quarterback play, he can make plays like this. But it's just over his head, and didn't, he's running to the sideline. You got to lead him a little bit more. So not a good throw there from Flacco. We're gonna go to week 11, which was still Flacco at 257. But yeah, this was more of the specialty of what you saw a lot of times from Denzel Mims. He's at the bottom of the screen here. It's just go. It's just we're going to throw you the ball after about you run 10 yards. Maybe a push off. Maybe. But good play. And he did this a good amount. I'm going to show you another one here on the left sideline that is going to look a little familiar because you pretty much just saw it reversed. Runs about 10 yards, throw it, push off a little bit. You see the defensive back even wants to push off, but doesn't get it. So this one I like this the route that he runs here. I think he's up here, and then what I like, you'll see after he just gets upfield. Again, the sort of that deep curl, and then again is able to try to like make a guy miss to try to get upfield. So not that he only gained a couple more yards, but I do like that he's just immediately turning and trying to make a guy miss and get upfield. So 10-22. Now I'm showing this as a 2-point conversion, but we didn't see. I think this is really, there may be one other target that he got even close. I think maybe that shows as much that they just were down. They weren't down here very often scoring. But he's in the slot here. It's a 2-point conversion, but we're going to need some touchdowns from Denzel Mims if we're going to use him in fantasy. And gives this little out route. So that's the kind of plays we need from him if we're going to use him. So, and then one more. This was he doesn't just run deep and curls. He actually does come over the middle a little bit, and he actually gets hit pretty good here. It shows him some good toughness to hold on to the ball. I think he's coming across the field right here. Gets hit. We'll show the other angle on this so you get a good sense too, because he does take a pretty good hit and holds on to the ball. So he's not just running deep. But that was really the extent of what I saw with Denzel Mims. Like, nothing really blows you away. You know, it's nice to see that him catching some of the deep balls, but you weren't seeing a lot of separation, a lot of breakaway speed. So he's tall. He's good, but again, when this offense might struggle, when you have guys like Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, potentially Jamison Crowder in there with a bad offensive line, a rookie quarterback, I don't know how much he can really develop this year. So he is somebody that will probably be, outside my top 40. There is a chance that he develops into a better player, but because again, it's not like it was bad. I didn't really see anything that was really that bad. I didn't see a lot of drops. Again, he wasn't really that varied in the route running that he did. It was mostly just those deep routes and maybe those deep curls. But I liked some of what I saw with Denzel Mims, but he didn't really blow me away. So, a couple questions here. It's a cool group here with Herbert, Tua, Burrow, Lawrence, Wilson, maybe Field. Yeah, there's a lot of young quarterbacks, which is certainly cool to see. So. Maybe Mac Jones. We'll see. So, hope Mims and Davis can help Wilson a ton. Moore is going to need help because Wilson needs to toss it out in 2 seconds with that kind of offensive line help. Yeah. So then maybe that's, I think we talked about with Tua, with Myles Gaskin catching a lot of balls. Maybe Michael Carter is the one that is getting involved in the passing game more. Maybe we do see some Chris Herndon. I think Moore, really, if there is no Jamison Crowder, I think Elijah Moore could be a pretty solid PPR option. But ranking the O-lines, so I would probably go Jets last, New England first, and then I guess it's Buffalo, Miami. Patriots, Bills, Dolphins, Jets, I think. Bills were solid last year. I don't think they were anything great. New England, again, they do get back one of their offensive linemen that they lost from the opt-out. They lost Joe, is it Thuney or Thuney? Tunney? I forget. I always forget how to pronounce his name. But, New England's got a pretty solid offensive line still. So that about does it. If you guys have any other questions, I talked NFC East last time. If you have any questions on NFC East, any other questions about anything in general with fantasy football, next week I've been holding off on the North, I think, because I don't want to do the Packers because I just don't know what to make of the Packers. So, do we go south next week? Maybe we'll go south. Let's go. Now that Julio's traded, I feel better about going NFC South. Let's do that. Let's go Falcons, Panthers, Bucks, and Saints next week for the NFC South. That will be, again, back here. Final thought on division standings. I think it's Buffalo, but I think the Patriots, with the additions they made, I think some of the additions they made with free agency are maybe a little overrated. As somebody who's an Eagles fan, Jalen Mills is fine. Some of those other guys that they signed are fine. Nelson Agholor, Kendrick Bourne, like those guys are okay. I think the tight ends were the biggest additions. I think Christian Barmore should be really solid, and I think really the big additions for them are getting back some of those guys that opted out. So I do like the Patriots, I think, over the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins will be solid. They might have played a little bit over their heads last year. We'll see. I did like that team. I did like a lot of what they did, but the Dolphins really comes down to how much does Tua take a step forward. So we'll see. But I'd have to think about it a little bit more. But I'm pretty torn on Patriots and Dolphins second, and I'm leaning Patriots. But NFC East offensive lines. It's really tough because I think it's Dallas and Philly, but those top two, but those offensive lines haven't stayed healthy. So if they're healthy, I'm a homer, so I'm probably gonna say Philly, then Dallas, and then Giants and Washington are probably a toss-up. I have to look what losing Zeitler probably doesn't help things for the Giants, so I will probably go Washington third, but I think they're both pretty bad, and I don't know that I really like either of those offensive lines. So whereas I think those teams will I think the Giants will take a step forward. I think Washington and New York are very, very similar teams in a lot of ways. I think they're potential things that could hold them back are quarterback play and offensive line. So right now, I honestly don't know how healthy some of the guys with Dallas are after last season, but I'll say Dallas just as default because I include Brandon Brooks being healthy for the Eagles. He's one of the best guards when he's healthy in football, and he's coming back from a major injury. He is practicing, but their practice right now is just very minimal. So, if in terms of studs, I think we'll get into a lot more fun guys when we're talking about Tampa wide receivers, the defending champs for Tampa. When we're talking about what we want to do with Atlanta, with them having Mike Davis, Calvin Ridley, no Julio. Carolina is a really interesting team. Speaking of Sam Darnold, you got Christian McCaffrey coming back healthy. Hopefully, is he your number one player overall? I think he might be mine. And then the Saints, it's brand new experience for the Saints. No more Drew Brees. So what are we gonna get from Jameis Winston? We'll see. So all right, guys, I will sign off, but I think those are going to be some fun teams a little bit more fun than some of these teams to preview. So I think as far as film, I might look at a little Jameis. Look at what Jameis did when he got in there for the Saints. I know it's a pretty small sample size, but Bucks I feel like are pretty established, and maybe I'll check out Ronald Jones, or maybe I just won't even do anybody on the Bucks because I don't know that there's anybody that you really don't already know about there. Panthers, do I want to go Darnold? Do I want to go Robbie Anderson? I don't know. We'll see what I want to maybe check out with with the Panthers and Atlanta. I think I'll probably check out Mike Davis. I think he's pretty interesting. Kyle Pitts, I didn't even bring up, so those are they're going to be some fun teams. So we'll check out more film. We're doing more projections. We'll talk NFC South next Thursday. Appreciate you guys stopping by. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button. It's free to do. Costs you nothing. Helps to support my stream. And I'll be back next Tuesday on Twitch, and we're doing Thursdays on YouTube for a while. We're trying this out. So yeah, Ridley is like one of those where it's like, I feel like you know what you're getting. I feel like I know what I'm getting from Ridley at this point. But if you want to see like a Ridley highlight reel, that could be fun. But Ridley's awesome, and he's going to be a potentially top 5 fantasy wide receiver. That was one of my better calls of last year. I had Ridley, I think 5th or 6th out of my wide receivers, and people thought I was crazy that him and Julio couldn't both finish that high. Well, Julio didn't, but Calvin Ridley certainly did. So appreciate you guys stopping in. Again, I'll be on Twitch Tuesday nights usually, and on here on Thursday nights. And yeah, it's more of the gaming stuff on Twitch. I've been doing a lot of this similar talk with fantasy stuff while also doing some gaming. So I've been playing Super Mario Sunshine recently, so we'll see what I get into down the road. But that's been my game lately. So appreciate you guys stopping in, and I will check you back here on YouTube for NFC South preview